Let's get into it. Hate comments and negative feedback trigger your nervous system's fight or flight response. That is the same reason that you still remember hate comments from 3 years ago. It's the reason your heart races when you see a notification pop up. It's the same reason you're afraid to speak your truth and show up as yourself. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to discern which comments are worth your time and energy, how to stop wasting your time and energy defending comments that could have been ignored, how to stop being afraid to speak your truth because you're scared of what people will think, and make sure you stick around till the end because I will be guiding you through building a regulation practice so you can start showing up confidently and consistently. And the first thing you need to understand is that your body registers criticism as a threat. I spoke about this in my last video. Evolutionarily, if you step away from the norm, you are likely to get exiled and die. So your nervous system literally thinks that you're unsafe when you're faced with criticism. And when your nervous system is activated like that, you cannot make good decisions. You can't think straight. So regulation has to come first, right? Once you understand that this reaction is your nervous system feeling unsafe, you can take the steps to regulate and then take action from there. And this fight or flight response goes for different comments, right? Not just the super hateful ones, but also dismissive comments, bean soup comments. We'll get into that in a minute. As well as feedback, especially when it's stated in a very kind of hateful way. And this brings me to point number 2, which is learning to discern and sort of categorize comments to figure out what is worth your time and what isn't. So there are a few different categories that I like to categorize comments into, and positive comments have like their own separate thing, right? But there are hate comments, right? These are kind of malicious comments. They're purposefully made to hurt somebody. Another one is bean soup theory comments, which is more like projection. If you don't know what bean soup theory is, essentially it's when somebody comments, I don't like beans, under a video about bean soup, right? Or a bean soup recipe. It's like, if you don't like beans, then don't make this recipe, right? But sometimes people just feel the need to insert themselves in a conversation or state their opinion or be heard or whatever the case, right? And a lot of the time, while these comments aren't done with malice the way hate comments are, sometimes it can be triggering because it feels a little bit dismissive, or it feels like an attack or criticism on your content when really that's not what it is at all. And then the last category is feedback. Feedback can be constructive, but it can also be done a little bit maliciously. I actually have an example of this. I made a video about manifestation once and somebody commented, why don't you manifest a tripod? This video made me sick. I think that if this had been done in a nicer way, like maybe said something like, hey, have you considered getting a tripod? I wasn't able to focus with all the movement from the camera. I might have been a little bit more open to it. But since it was said with such kind of like hate, right? Like, why state it that way? Why state it so rudely? Why be an asshole, basically? I didn't really pay it as much mind as maybe I should have at the time, right? Because at the end of the day, even though this person was kind of being an asshole, the feedback may have still been valid. Maybe it does help to have a tripod and be still rather than holding up my phone, though there are times as a creator where you just want to pull out your phone and record, right? You don't have time to be setting up a tripod in the middle of the street. But really just kind of thinking about, is this feedback valid even if it was said or delivered in a way that seemed hateful? Or is this person just trolling or projecting or spreading hate? Does that make sense? So like a question you can ask yourself is this person actually open to conversation, or is this person just being hateful? Are they actually interested in dialogue, or do they just want to insert themselves and be heard in some way, and then it's not really worth responding to? Because at the end of the day, and this brings me to point number 3, not every comment deserves a response or your time or your energy. Your time and energy are limited, okay? You cannot be spending all day responding to comments, especially as you grow as a creator and your engagement increases and you start to see more of these comments, which you inevitably will, I promise you. Like, it is just a part of being a creator. You're putting yourself out there and people are allowed to comment if they want to. It is really up to you to set those boundaries with your time, your energy, your platform. Now, this doesn't mean creating an echo chamber, right? And deleting every comment that disagrees with you or blocking every person who doesn't agree with your ideas. It's really a matter of discernment, keeping constructive disagreement and constructive criticism, but removing the hate or the pointless negativity. Asking yourself, like, what will protect my peace right now? Will engaging actually make me feel better, or am I just feeding my ego a little bit? Am I responding from a place of groundedness and regulation, or am I reacting? And then the last question I really like to ask myself here is, because usually it's not about changing this person's mind, but will it serve my audience? Like I said before, not everyone is open to discussion. Sometimes when somebody comments something, it's not because they're willing to have a conversation, and you can kind of discern that based on their tone. Maybe if you do reply, how they reply back, right? Are they open to discussion, or are they just here for a fight? But sometimes asking yourself, like, will it serve my audience if I respond, right? So I'll give you an example here too, okay? Calling out misinformation, for instance. This actually came up this morning. I was looking at a recipe video and they added a little touch of salt at the end, and somebody commented, I was on board until you put the salt on because salt is bad for your heart health. I think that as a creator, I would have responded to that because it is blatant misinformation. Like, our bodies literally need salt, and at the end of the day, the dose makes the poison, right? Like, salt in excess can be harmful, right? But adding a touch of salt to your food isn't gonna kill you. So if you think about it, right, if somebody's scrolling through your comments and they saw that, and maybe it caused some fear on them, because at the end of the day, that is fear mongering, would it serve that person if you replied and saying like, hey, you know what, actually this isn't true? And if so, maybe leaving that comment there and replying and kind of having that constructive conversation, even if that person specifically is not open to it, might serve your audience in a way where if somebody's looking through your comments, they'll see, oh, hey, this actually maybe isn't true. Or at the very least, it'll get them thinking and maybe get them to do their own research, etc. So that was a little wordy, but all that to say that not every comment deserves a response, and it's really up to you to decide what does deserve a response. How can I protect my peace? How will engaging make me feel? And will this serve my audience or not? Before we continue to point number 4 and building a regulation practice, if you've learned something so far, be sure to give the video a thumbs up to let YouTube know that other creators like you might find this video valuable. And also consider subscribing to the channel. It's a free way to support and allow me to continue to make free videos for you every single week. Now, the fourth piece of advice that I have for you here is use your nervous system regulation as your superpower. And again, we're going to talk in a minute about actually building a regulation practice so that you can start posting confidently and consistently. But something that I love to do is regulate before I post, regulate before I check notifications. Yes, regulation is a huge part of my life and my day, because like I said, if you're not regulated, you cannot take aligned action. It's very difficult to think straight when you're being ruled and controlled by anxiety and fear. So basically grounding yourself so that every comment doesn't feel like an attack, right? Every hate comment, at least. Grounding yourself so that when you post, you're not constantly spiraling and worried about what people will think. Also, when you actually do get triggered, pausing before you react and regulating yourself and reminding yourself like, hey, you know what, we're safe. We're going to talk about this in a second. And then also reminding yourself why you're creating, right? You're doing it for the people who need to hear your message. And I promise those people are out there. It is your responsibility to speak your truth. And this is why I teach showing up authentically. This is why I teach nervous system regulation when it comes to content creation, because it is so important if you have something to share and you're being called to spread a message, to understand that there are people out there waiting for your message, waiting to hear your unique perspective and your unique experience. So reminding yourself why you're creating, right? It's because you felt a passion for something and you wanted to share it with other people because you believe that what you have can help other people. So remembering that you're not creating for the haters, right? Obviously, those are just kind of a side effect of creating content, but what you're really here for is the people who need your message. So what we're going to do now is build a regulation practice that protects your creative energy and allows you to show up for those people. So first of all, something I like to do is I have a pre-creation and pre-posting ritual. And depending on how I'm feeling that day, it could be a breathing exercise, it could be EFT tapping, it could be a mantra, right? Like, I'm sharing this for the people who need it, because there have been times in the past where I'll be editing a video and I'll cut pieces out that seem maybe a little too controversial or that I'm not sure how people will react to them. And at the end of the day, when you do that, you're censoring yourself. So before you even start editing, right, or before you even start recording, reminding yourself who you're doing this for, why you're doing this, and reminding yourself that you're not to censor yourself. Like, you're here to speak your truth. You're a soul-led creator with a message to share, and you're going to share it no matter what, and reminding yourself like it's safe to speak my truth. Something else that I like to do is have a response ready for when I am triggered. So if I do get a hate comment, for example, I pause for a minute, I take a deep breath, and then I remind myself, this is not my reality, this is just my nervous system responding, and I don't need to respond right now. I am safe, I am protected. This comment is not a threat on my life. It is simply somebody projecting, it's somebody having a bad day. Like, have that ready to change your mindset around hate comments and remind yourself, like, I'm safe. It's okay to take a deep breath and not respond right now. This is just my nervous system. This is just an appearance. It is not my reality. And also keep track of those experiences, right? So whenever you're able to regulate yourself, keep track of that and remind yourself, like, oh, hey, I got a hate comment, but what actually happened? Nothing. Like, I'm still safe. I'm still alive. Everything is still good. You want to rewire your brain by noticing that you're safe and alive, and rewire your nervous system to understand that a hate comment is nothing. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not a threat to your survival. You are okay. At the end of the day, that's what all this is about, right? Your nervous system thinks that criticism is a threat to your survival, and it is your job to regulate and remind yourself that you're fine. You're not going to die. And the goal here is not to never be hurt by hate, right? Because I think as human beings, there's always going to be that aspect of feeling hurt when somebody attacks you or your identity, right? Or your ideas. The idea here is to regulate so that that negativity doesn't affect your creative energy and doesn't control your actions. Basically, it's so that the haters can't keep you from showing up for your people. So again, remind yourself that you are safe. Create a regulation practice that allows you to show up authentically, that allows you to post authentically, that allows you to interact with your audience without being weighed down by the hate and negativity, which again is inevitable, especially as you grow. But at the end of the day, you guys, the majority of the people who are going to comment over time on your posts, they're gonna be overwhelmingly positive. And if you want to be a creator, you have to remember who you're doing it for, and remember that this is just a side effect. The reality is, you are speaking your truth, you are letting your soul lead, and you are showing up for your people. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling right now and what you've been struggling with the most when it comes to content creation and showing up authentically, because I also want to know what you guys need the most help with so I can make more videos for you and actually support you on your journey. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Merlina Azul, and I will see you in the next one.